I've known Dick since he was 22 or 23, and his whole life was, I want to go and race and win Bathurst, and that's how he was.
One of the things that I intended doing is winning the James Hardy 1000.
We have an enormous traffic jam. We've had a horrendous crash at the top of the mountain.
60% of the distance has been covered and the red flag is used. The race must be declared.
That the race had been officially declared finished and that Dick Johnson was the winner.
Up through BP cutting, Johnny Bowe.
Bowe was a very natural driver. He could drive anything.
Bowe hunched over in characteristic fashion. Manhandled the car down off the mountain.
Dick and John Bowe were a very good combination together. They both complemented each other.
John Bowe across the line. He takes victory nearly half a car over Dick Johnson.
History says they were a good team.
The checkered flag is out for you.
Is the moment. Savour it, John.
John Bowe wins the 1994 Tooheys 1000. Dick Johnson is absolutely jubilant, as you'd expect.
When I raced for them, I was part of their family. He welcomed me into the team. He never told me I had to do anything. Many times I've given him back broken engines or crashed cars. Never once did he tear strips off me.
Oh, he's got him sideways!
No, I don't believe he touched him.
It's a big... Oh, it is a bad one. That is John Bowe.
Yeah, on the track, yeah, we had the odd dust up here and there, but as it turns out, I think we both had some good victories.
Yeah, they were hard duo to beat, to be honest. I'm happy to say I think I beat them a couple of times.
There was no doubt the results show that they were a good combination together.
Watching his teammate, every move, every gear change, every brake application.
Probably one of the strongest teams, I would say, that were probably nearly ever at Bathurst.
In the number 17, Dick Johnson and John Bowe.
John Bowe, Dick Johnson, the winners of the great race, and a Ford Falcon has won Bathurst.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Shannons Legends of Motorsport, a program about the extraordinary history of Australian Touring Car Championship racing and in particular Bathurst. We've got a great program lined up today. Over the coming months we're going to be looking at a whole variety of different topics. We will virtually trawl all the way through the entire 7 Motorsport library on the way. We'll meet some driving legends and we'll be going to different locations all around the country, Bowden's Own in Queensland, to the National Motor Racing Museum in Bathurst and to Shannons in Melbourne. And to help tell the story we've got some muscle car experts as well. We'll have Aaron Noonan and Mark Osler with us. On the show today, we are at Bowden's Own extraordinary private collection of cars in Queensland. Look at the heavy metal that surrounds us here. It is absolutely beautiful. And we've got a couple of guys as guests today who own a very special chapter in the history of Australian motorsport. Would you please put your hands together for Dick Johnson and John Bowe.
Neil, EJ, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Cheers.
Welcome, boys.
Too much love.
He said not to sit too close.
Extraordinary partnership.
He hasn't got his caramel pants on.
Let's look at this. 11 years together. Racing partnership that achieved 3 Australian Touring Car Championships, 2 Sandown 500 victories, 2 Bathurst wins, and this period covers the Sierras and the V8 Ford Falcons. You guys did a lot together. Well done.
Thank you.
It was worth doing, mate, I can assure you. It was, like, JB has been, a big part of my career, and certainly I think for those 11 years, I don't think we ever had an angry word, except...
no, we didn't.
No, we
not
really,
an argument,
just,
truly. It's
honestly
amazing.
How did the partnership start?
Can I tell you?
No, hang on.
I've heard this before.
We don't want it sugar-coated, but in 1987, Christmas 1987, I get this Christmas card. And I opened up and I said, who's this? John Bowe. what's he sending me a Christmas card for? Then I knew, mate.
He's angling.
Yeah, oh, mate. Yeah.
Looking for a drive.
Because you'd driven for Volvo in 1986 and you were an open wheeler specialist and sports car specialist for many years.
Well, I met Dick during the Nissan One Make Series, Nissan Pulses, and I used to ask Jill to do the timing for me. So I kind of got to know him, and yeah, I sent him a Christmas card. It is true. It's a true story. And it worked, obviously.
You got the job.
I got the job.
Let's have a look at how the partnership started. Round 1 of the Australian Touring Car Championship in 1988 at Calder.
The two Shell Sierras on the front row. Dick Johnson lights up the tyres, but Perkins stands on the gas, gets away very smartly indeed, and in fact John Bowe has missed the kick completely. It'll be Dick Johnson down on the inside, Larry Perkins going after him on the inside, and also a great start there from Andrew Badecki, running down to the right-hander for the first time, and Perkins has made an absolute blinder of a start. But it'll be Dick Johnson and Tony Longhurst back in the pack there, and also the BMW is up very smartly, Tony Noski as well, as they work up onto the back part of the course for the first time. Up the hill. Jim Richards has come out very quickly in car number 1.
But don't be surprised if Larry Perkins gets pinged for jumping the start.
I look at that stuff and I get frightened. Big grunts, small tyres, sliding everywhere.
Look, honestly, Dick told me, I asked him how to start, and he said, don't be too aggressive because the diff was a bit weak in them. But I don't think he meant to be that weak. I was like last.
88 was an extraordinary year for you two. What a great way to start a partnership, first and second in the championship. Fond memories, John?
Absolutely. I think anybody that didn't drive a Sierra in the touring car world, it probably missed out on something. They were like light switch power delivery, not the best handling car in the world, although we didn't know that at the time.
It's just your talent, mate. That was
no. I mean, I was very fortunate, honestly, because I turned up when Dick's guys and Dick got all their act together, and the cars were good from the beginning. So, you know, I was very lucky. I'd been racing for 10 years, and all of a sudden I was an overnight sensation because I was Dick Johnson's partner. So it was pretty fortuitous for me.
Got off to a ripper start because Dick was the winner of the first round at Calder, and then, as tradition always has it, we then go on to Tassie for the subsequent round, and that pretty much set the tone for the year. We'll go to the break and have a look at these two guys dominating down at Symmons Plains.
It's been quite a while since we've seen a very consistent 1-2 finish here in the Touring Car Nationals for Ford. The last corner comes up. John Bowe pulls to the inside. A form finish, first then second. Round 2 from Symmons Plains in Tasmania. The win will go to Dick Johnson in car number 17. Runner-up, team partner, John Bowe. And third place going to Colin Bond in the Caltex Ford Sierra. They're on the final lap. The late corner now, crowd starting to rise. Can Johnson come back? Will Bowe allow him to win it? They work their way down to the late corner. You can hear Johnson's car. It is well and truly off song. The right-hander coming up. Bowe goes in very deep. Will he keep out against the wall and let Johnson up on the inside? It's all up to Bowe now, whether he wants the boss to do it or not. Bowe says no. Bowe will win it. John Bowe across the line. He takes victory, merely a pass car over Dick Johnson.
Welcome back. Shannons, legends of motorsport, and a couple of legends with us today. We've got Dick Johnson and John Bowe as our very special guests, and form finish there at Amaroo Park in Sydney, which sadly today is a housing estate, boys.
It is a shame. Great track.
It was a great little racetrack.
Fantastic little racetrack, and the poor old Sierra there, I'll never forget it. It dropped a valve, believe it or not. Unfortunately, the head came off a valve, and fortunately, it got jammed up in the valve pocket. So I continued on, and it kept going long enough to go across the finish line.
Honestly, a measure of this guy, and as you know, I have a huge respect for him. I was never told ever in all those years that I had to stay behind him, that I had to not pass him or whatever, you know. So I think it doesn't happen that much in motorsport. No. And I remember that particular race, they didn't have the heat shield on the transmission tunnel. Do you remember that? I burnt my foot.
Poor darling. Like just
I could smell this smell of like roast pork, which is what human flesh smells like when you burn it. And I wouldn't stop. And we were standing on the podium, which was the grass verge, as you know.
Yes.
And I put my foot in a bucket, like it was just painful. I told Dick I was going to sue him, but I didn't.
It might be just outside the statute of limitations now. You won 8 of the 9 rounds domestically in 1988, and then you decided to take on the World Boys, and you went to Silverstone. Tell us about that project.
Well, that was, to put it kindly, I think it was an ego trip, because in 1987, when we had the World Touring Car Championship at Bathurst, when we had all the Europeans out, the Eggenberger team, and we had Rouse, we had everyone, all the hot rod people, and they made us look stupid. And I thought, well, you know, we've got to do something about this. And once we got our act together, and everything we did here in Australia, because we had to buy stuff off Andy Rouse over there to get the computer chip, all that sort of stuff. And I said, this is a joke. I won't say what we thought of Andy Rouse because of the fact that I was embarrassed even to say that in front of my wife. But I walked out of his office and I said to Julie, I said, this is in England. I said, well, I'm buggered if I know what I'm going to do now, but we've got to find something. And I found this guy by the name of Graham Dale Jones, who used to do the Ford rally cars, and they ran a Bosch system in them, and he agreed that he'd come and help us sort of sort it out, which he did. And from that point on, we really sort of worked on the car and worked outside the square. You know, the Poms and the Krauts and that over there, they just wanted to stay right, you know.
They'd be Germans.
Right, they're good, you know. I don't know, I've never met a German you can tell anything to anyway, but just... But as it turns out, we got to a point where we moved outside the square and did things that they wouldn't normally do, and we ended up with some pretty fast Sierras. And so we put it on a plane with Ross Palmer, who was one of our sponsors at that point, was over in England. He was launching Redcoat, so we had Redcoat down the side and Shell, and we went over there and put it on pole by, 1.6 or 8 seconds or something, and made them look stupid. One of the best photos I've got is lap 1 down Hanger Straight when we were about 200 metres in front of the 3 Eggenberger cars and Rouse cars, and it was a good moment.
Why don't we have a look at the fruits of your labour?
After embarrassment at the hands of the Europeans the year prior, the duo flew one of their red rockets to England and took on the likes of the Eggenberger Texaco Sierras, Andy Rouse's British-built Fords and Tom Walkinshaw's new Batmobile Commodore. The Aussies qualified comfortably on pole, and Johnson belted them in the early laps to run away from the best that the European Championship could muster. Bowe took the wheel and was on his way back up through the order as the Texaco team, which had been disqualified from a 1-2 at Bathurst the year prior, caught their breath in pit lane. Not long after, the Aussie Ford was in, rising engine temperatures and a water pump drama stopping their bid for victory. But they'd made their point. The fastest Sierras in the world came from Queensland.
Well done. Unbelievable. ATCC success, Touring Car Championship success, plenty of that. But Bathurst that year, that was a little bit tricky, wasn't it? You decided to run 3 cars. I mean, 1 car's hard, 2 cars a nightmare, 3 cars is a genuine horror story in this business, isn't it?
Just being stupid, yeah. I think.
Why? Why'd you do that?
Well, and besides that, we had a couple of Kiwis in the 3rd car, and well, we did it because of the fact that one of the cars, which was the 3rd car, was we were obviously selling to New Zealand. They wanted to run it at Bathurst, so which we did. But as it turns out, Bathurst was good to a point. And then we had a bit of drama.
I should point out that this was in the days when you could cross-enter, so everybody put their name on the entry form across all of the different cars, and that's ultimately what happened, because I think you finished 2nd, but you had to hop cars to do that.
Mm. Yeah, well, we did. You tell me about that.
We had John Smith, who's a Sydney guy, a very good driver. He was in the 3rd car. He tells a very funny story about they held out a board to him in the first stint. Dick's out because Dick had a puncture and spun on the straight and bent the crankshaft, and then my engine blew up. So then they held out a sign to him, John's out. And then they held out a sign to him, you're out. He got hauled out, and Dick and I finished the race in that car, and I had a very good battle during the course of that race with Alan Moffat. He was in the Eggenberger run car.
ANZ car, yeah.
And we had the rear end was steering in our car. It wasn't a very pleasant experience, but we would have actually, woulda, coulda, shoulda. We should have won, except they were making you turn the engine off at the pit stops and the starter motor failed. So we had to replace the starter motor, so we lost the race by, much less than that.
Well, yeah, only a very short margin, actually. I think Tony Longhurst won it with
Tony and
Thomas Mazzera.
Yeah.
Lots of tales to tell.
Lots of tales.
Lots of tales to tell. We'll take a break on the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. When we come back, we've got some rare vision of these guys, and we're also going to have an up-close look at one of these Ford Sierras. Stay with us.
Yes, Dickie Johnson in second place, car number 18, after a great drive with John Bowe. A couple of dead vehicles, but the third vehicle lasted and brought him home the result that he wanted. So John Bowe now twice the runner-up, 2 years running. Out very wide that time, got it a little bit loose there. Now, as he floats it out wide, it's very, very quick. He's used absolutely every last inch. Coming down to Skyline. We'll hear the crowd erupt again through here. I think it's fair to say that this man's driving the best we've ever seen him in this last couple of seasons.
Welcome back to the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. Dick Johnson at the helm there in the shootout, 1989 at Bathurst, and boy, that was fantastic. Those things sliding everywhere, it was wild.
They were different, let's put it that way. They were a very powerful car. And the power used to come on like a light switch, It had nothing and then it had heaps. And so you had to be very careful. You had your foot on the throttle, actually, well before you got to the corner. So when you're coming out of the corner, it was on boost. So, yeah, they were difficult to drive, but they were good fun. Gee, they were quick, though.
Fantastic to watch. I mentioned at the top of the program we've got some very special people contributing to help tell the story in the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. We've got Aaron Noonan and Mark Osler with us. Both of the boys are muscle car experts, and Marco is going to take an up-close look at the car that won in 1989. Mark?
Thanks, Neil. Back in the 1980s, world motorsport was all about turbocharging. We had turbo Formula One, we had turbo rally cars, turbo world sports cars, and of course, turbocharged touring cars. This car, the Ford Sierra RS500 Cosworth, was the epitome of Ford performance at the time. Incredible car, and these ones built by Dick Johnson Racing in Australia were widely regarded as the fastest Sierras in the world. Not surprising. First and second in 1988. First and second in 1989 Australian Touring Car Championships, and of course this car won Bathurst in 1989. Incredibly fast car. It was small, it was light, and the secret to that was this 2-litre turbocharged engine developed by Cosworth with a huge turbocharger on it that Dick was just telling me on the dyno in qualifying boost, 680 brake horsepower. Can you imagine that? In a car this small. It used to fry the rear tyres if the drivers weren't careful on the throttle. The really interesting thing about the Dick Johnson cars, as Dick has alluded to, is these were Australianised. Instead of getting the runaround from overseas suppliers, they did it themselves here. They developed their own engine management system. They switched from the Getrag 5-speed gearbox to the Aussie-made Hollinger 6-speed. With Ron Harrop, they developed their own 9-inch differential. It was absolutely bulletproof, and it was sold to customers all over the world. They even built their own wheels. These cars were the envy of Sierra racers around the world. And thanks to David Bowden and Dick Johnson looking ahead, these cars are now preserved for all time. The epitome of Ford performance in the turbocharged era of touring car racing.
Lovely job. Thank you very much, Mark. Well done. Good stuff. Amazing, boys. When you look at the stats, 88, 89, it's about as good as it gets in motor racing. You won 14 of the 17 available rounds.
Did we?
Yeah.
What happened the other 3?
It was his fault. But it's extraordinary. I mean, it just doesn't happen typically.
No, it doesn't. It was a really good era. I mean, we had some great times, but, results in racing are about the people you got around you, and we had some good. Dick had some good people. I was just
absolutely.
There, you know, I was hanging on the coattails of him, as I have done for many years. So
you're only as good as the people you got around you, and we had really good people around us, and in amongst them too was a lot of Kiwis. Like Neil Lowe was team manager at that point in time, and obviously he was responsible for a lot of the development work as well, and because we were one of the very few teams that did everything in-house, and that I think was a huge advantage, and I owe it to all those guys that sort of were dedicated, and certainly Shell, who were absolutely fantastic sponsors.
89 was an extraordinary year. You led every lap of the Bathurst 1000 on the march towards the victory. Here's just a slice.
Dick Johnson is our race leader in car number 17. Second place, being held down by Klaus Niewitz. And Peter Brock running in third place as they work Conrod Straight yet again. There's Johnson really with a head of steam up. Let's look at the speed of the Ford Sierra as he swings down Conrod Straight.
I noticed car number 14, Murray Carter, John Mann, Ford Sierra, limping down pit straight a couple of minutes ago. It looked like something had collapsed on the front right of the car as we take Dunlop race cam with Dick Johnson, sprinting out in front at the moment. Back to second gear for the left-hander at the end of the Caltex chase. And then underneath the Bridgestone Bridge down to complete another lap. And he's got a pretty reasonable margin of just over 4 seconds on Klaus Niewitz at the moment in the ANZ Ford Sierra. And there's another view from inside the Johnson car. Again, Dunlop race cam.
Looking very laid back, isn't he?
Looks that way, but I bet it doesn't feel like it. Very gentle with the power, trying to be super conservative with the car in the early stages.
He's very laid back, as you said, Gary, Dick Johnson.
I hope you washed that glove.
Oh, I didn't have a tissue.
Well, as I said at the top of the program, we've got some boys to come along and help tell the tale of the Shannons legends of motorsport. And when it comes to vault items, Aaron, there's absolutely no shortage of material with these guys.
Neil, it's hard to know where to look in the archive with Johnson and Bowe, but of course that was the era where race cam and in-car chatting was at an all-time high. I've dug this out from the Tooheys 1000 from Bathurst in 1990. It's Dick at the wheel of the Sierra taking on Jim Richards in what was then the brand new Nissan GTR. We'll take a break on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. We'll be back with more soon.
But anyway, at least we can say hello to all our Kiwi friends that are watching because there's a Kiwi about to go past me. Bye-bye.
It's got a bit of grunt, hasn't it?
It's got a bit of something.
Are you surprised it's still here and running competitively, Dick, this time of the race?
Mate, I think they had a fair bit of a windfall, I think, late on Saturday. And it was about then that I said to the guys, we're going to have trouble with this dude.
Red flag is out. The race is over for a lot of these competitors. Well, what in particular for Fred Gibson, Jim Richards, Mark Skate, what a dreadful end to what had been a brilliant campaign. Dick Johnson, relatively unscathed, arm raised. Now, I don't know whether his arm is raised in what he thinks might be victory, but the indications that we've been given is that the number one Nissan will still be declared the race winner.
Shannon's Legends of Motorsport, a big moment in the history of Australian motor racing, Bathurst 1992. You thought at that point perhaps you may well have been the winner. Strong emotions going on at the time.
That was a really, really tough race, and because the weather changed so much throughout the whole day, and I can honestly say I don't think JB and myself have ever driven as well as we did in that particular event, because we knew we had our backs against the wall, against the Nissan and that, but we took the fight up to them all day, and because I know you were behind us as well, mate, and the thing was that if we could ever do a perfect race, that would have been it, for the simple reason we put the right tyres on at the right time, we stopped at the right time, the pit stops were good, everything, the car was good, the whole thing worked, and like those things in the wet are dynamite, I tell you.
Well, yeah, I don't know how you did it. I mean, we had four-wheel drive in those things, and we actually stopped to do rear brake pads in that latter stage so that they could see what our pad wear was relative to, front brake pads relative to the behaviour of the other car.
They obviously didn't work good enough.
No, and which set up that scenario of us all being close there at the end. But it was bad enough with four-wheel drive, let alone with one of these things.
They were shocking. We as soon as they got on the boost, you change gears, and it was before heated screens, and the door rubbers weren't there, so all the water ran in, and the floor was really hot because the turbocharger made it hot.
Fogged his glasses up.
Fogged up the windscreen, then it fogged up my glasses. So like going up the mountain straight, I would, and I'm sure you did the same, you'd undo the belts to some degree so you could lean forward. I got my hanky out of my pocket, a bit, second-hand anyway, and I'd lean forward and rub a little hole in the windscreen so I could see where I was going, and then poke it down between my legs, pull the belts up again, it was shocking. Absolute madness.
If he sat that far forward, he could do it,
doing this one all the time. But it's true. I mean, the cars at that stage, it was like an old, fish and chip shop from Devonport, where you were from the sort of the wet, sweaty windows.
It was shocking, yeah, absolutely. And it's the only time in my whole racing life, which has been very long, where I was driving down the straight at Bathurst in this mist, not being able to see more than 5 metres in front of myself. And thinking, what the hell am I doing? Looking at the white line on the right-hand side of the road to see when you had to turn into the... I mean, it's just crazy. But we survived, and we were right there at the end. But, unfortunately, it wasn't our race. We thought it was, but it wasn't.
It was an outstanding performance, and, of course, it set up one of the most emotional podium scenes that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Second place getters outright in the number 17, Shell Sierra, Dick Johnson and John Bowe.
I don't know where the hell we are, but I really don't.
There seems to be some confusion about that.
Well, I suppose there would be, Wilco. I really, it's just one of those races. It's been up and down all day, isn't it?
What was your interpretation of events at the finish? Did you think you were third, second, first, 15th?
Well, after I passed Jim up the hill, I thought, well, we've got to be number one, surely. But obviously, you can be beaten by a crash car.
While they're down.
Mate, what would life be without humour?
Yeah, exactly. At that point, it's pretty much the end of the Sierra era. In fact, by the time we got to September 1992, there were 4 V8s in existence because the Holden Racing team had 2 from the Sandown 500, and Glenn Seaton was running a couple as well. So you were kind of wrapping up the whole Sierra era at that stage. I mean, fond memories as a project?
Well, it certainly was. Obviously we had the best in the world, so to speak. That's the way it was sort of seen. But we had some absolutely magnificent times in those cars. They were really that was the peak of our career, I would suggest.
And I imagine, and I haven't verified this with you, but you were probably intrinsically linked to the whole business of the arrival of the V8 and the new era in any case, because I can distinctly remember Mike Raymond, Peter Gillitzer, Rob McIntyre, the late Ken Potter, everybody getting together to create what has subsequently become V8 Supercar, and I'm sure that you would have been quite passionate about that too.
Well, it was, and we stuck a lot of our own hard-earned money into that sort of deal to be able to sort of change from where we were with the Group A, because Group A was failing worldwide, to be quite honest, and the television numbers were dropping down, and we went back to the old adage of saying, well, where were the numbers good, and what have we got to do to sort of get it back there? And the one answer came up was Ford and Holden and V8s.
Well, when you did go racing in 1993 in a V8 at Bathurst, didn't go totally to plan. We'll take a break on the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. We'll be back in just a moment.
Back here at Mount Panorama, real drama, the 17 car of Dick Johnson. The way down from the top of the mountain has flouted the wall.
They've been complaining about the slow cars all week. Dick's got a bit of a limp there. He's probably damaged his ankle when he hit the concrete wall. John Bowe looking absolutely disgusted. He would have seen the replay there. Back to second, muscles the nose in. There's a guy who's almost cut a groove. Oh dear, I think he hit the fence there. There was quite an impact. He did, tyre rubbing, yeah.
That's caused him.
You were with him when Dick Johnson clipped the wall, the rear tyre's rubbing, and we hope that'll hang in there for the rest of this race.
The worst thing he's got here, Mark, is he'll be smelling the smoke now, and it is very nervy, wondering whether a tyre will blow.
That is hairy stuff. Look at this, the car loaded up 180, 190 kilometres an hour through there. We've got our fingers crossed for Dickie Johnson.
Yeah, it will be okay on Conrad, but when he's throwing it through these corners, of course, the ball will get up here.
Welcome back, Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. 1994, the shootout. Yes, you did hit the wall on the exit of the cutting.
Just
glanced at just a little one. And you made the shootout every year, which is an achievement in itself, worthy of applause, I think, to actually make that top 10. A very big thing in a driver's career. But it rained for the start of the 94 race, and then you did the honourable thing, you put him in.
Honestly, after breakfast, we used to all eat breakfast at the track. After breakfast, I hid. You know, I hid. I slunk off and hid so he couldn't find me. And Ross Stone came out, who was working for Dick at the time, came up to me and said, Dick wants you to start the race. And I said, you know, no. Basically, no. Anyway, obviously, I always abide by the, you know, he who's got the gold makes the rules. So I started the race, and I was on 10th because, you know, the Dick hitting the wall coming out of the cutting had buggered up the time. And I was sitting in there with this car all steamed up before the start, and Dick and Jilly were down the front of the grid there, having lots of fun, slapping each other's back and joking with Fred Gibson, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, well, you know what I'm thinking.
We get the concept.
Yes, yes. Anyway, as it turned out, you know, the car was fantastic. It was a great car.
Yeah.
It's probably the best V8 supercar I ever drove.
And it was a bit of a dog right up until the Saturday afternoon when Ross and Jimmy made one change to the back of the car, and it turned it into the best car we've ever driven at Bathurst. It was just, doesn't matter what you did with it, it'd just do everything you wanted it to do. And it was,
well, so good that you went on to win the race. Let's relive that finish.
Out of tyre power turn for the last time for John Bowe, heading down to Conrod Straight.
And full credit to Ross Stone.
And let's see if we can join John Bowe aboard the 17 Shell FAI Falcon. John Bowe, how does it feel?
Oh, mate, what a race. What a race.
You've got it parcelled up now, son.
I think it's taken 10 years off my life. I've just got to say, though, that this car is just the best car that's ever been built in touring car racing. And the Dunlop tyres were just fantastic, and it's just, I mean, it's overwhelming.
All that is true, but Dick and yourself have done a mighty job. The checkered flag is out for you.
Is the moment, savour it, John.
John Bowe wins the 1994 Tui's 1000. Dick Johnson is absolutely jubilant, as you'd expect. Craig Lowndes and Brad Jones, a great job in 015 to finish second, holding up the Holden flag. And Murray Perkins, I believe, will come in third.
And the gap, 5.7 seconds ultimately between
the winning margin.
John Bowe and Craig Johnson.
Congratulations, a fantastic performance. And Aaron Noonan actually found an interesting fact here. You were never in the car at the end of any of your Bathurst race victories, which surprised me.
Victories, yeah, well, you know, it's not about that, it's about the team.
Yeah.
And it's what you've got to do to win the event. And just the way things turned out because of safety cars and things where people have got to get in the car at certain times, and just the way it worked out.
And when you chat to virtually everybody in this business over a period of time, everyone's got their story where it was in total harmony one year and total disarray the next. And in fact, in 1995 for you guys, it was pretty tough. Stephen out-qualified you, which was, you know, it was a great job for young Stephen, but this was a little moment between you, JB, and Glenn Seaton.
Yes.
And a not-so-happy DJ there, it seems.
That's rare. I think sometimes, you know, that when you're sort of in the mode of the
emotional, it's emotional.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not often it happens, but you know, sometimes you get frustrated.
And making matters worse in terms of that relationship with Glenn, that was also the year that, as I recall, you'd given him a little tweak and had a crack at him about his personality or something. He said he had the personality of a speed bump or something, which wasn't very friendly, DJ.
Well, mate, that's me, I suppose. You know, you just say what you mean, and it's not meant as a derogatory comment, to be quite honest. It's just the way I am. But
you've got to understand, though, in the Ford world, Ford were playing both of us off, you know, like, so we were always, obviously, as a group and a team, trying to establish ourselves as the Ford team, and Glenn was doing the same. So it is emotional. It's very draining, and it's
warfare.
Yeah, absolutely.
It basically dominates your life.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to get through from the 7 Volt, and Aaron Noonan's got a pile of stuff in relation to these guys.
Neil, Dick Johnson, of course, winning the championship in Sierras in 1988 and then in 1989. But in 1995, it was JB's turn, of course, at the wheel of the Shell Falcon EF. Let's have a look back in the vault at how he clinched the title at Oran Park in 1995. Stay with us. More Shannons Legends of Motorsport after the break.
He is the first driver, in fact, the first Australian driver to win the Australian Touring Car Championship, the Australian Gold Star Championship, and the Australian Sports Car Championship. So he's really nailed quite a few titles in one go.
And the grand final has been dominated by this man, John Bowe, the new national champion. And the winner of the championship, he's done it in all other forms of racing. He's finally done it the touring car. John Bowe, our national champion. That sounds all right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great feeling. And it's all down to the crew of Dick Johnson Racing. They're a tremendous bunch of people, and they've given me such a superb car all year.
Let's hear it for John Bowe, national champion.
You'd have to say the Shell team are disappointed with the result this weekend so far. I think they'd expect to do quite well here.
Meanwhile, just as Lowndes heads toward the checkered flag, Dick Johnson slowing, in trouble.
Bloody you should have told me. You said it was bloody 2 laps to go.
Oh, I don't believe this.
Well, poor old Dick, 4th back to 9th, and it was his own crew that miscalled the laps.
There's some tales to tell in this business, but what on earth were you thinking? What was going on then?
Well, you know, when you've got 1 lap to go and you've been told that, you know, you're gone across the finish line, maybe it was probably my fault because obviously you don't look at a checkered flag, really. You just assume that it's there. And then all of a sudden all these dudes are they're in a hurry to get back to the pits. And half the field's driving past me, and then they say, it's not finished yet.
But what a great racetrack, Lakeside JB, awesome little racetrack.
I'd raced there as an open wheeler driver, and my very first test with DJR was at Lakeside, so Dick said, come up and have a drive. So I went up and had a drive. The week before Calder, the first race I ever did with Dick, and he absolutely gapped me. And I'd never had anyone gap me before, and I was so embarrassed. And I rang up Neil Lowe when I got home, and I said, what's going on? You know, why is he so fast? He said he made me retire. So he made Neil retire because he was so fast around Lakeside. So it took me about 5 years to be able to match him. And he just knew every bump, and eventually I followed him, and then I realised he drove off the road most of the time. So
throwing rocks, I can remember. In the kink in the main straight. It was a great racetrack, and the cars leapt and danced, and there was a moment there where, and this happened a few times in your career, where John Bowe and Glenn Seaton got together at Lakeside, and there was also quite an awkward moment with Thomas Mazira. Check this out.
We've got a fabulous race going here for second. There's John Bowe down the inside, and he spun Seaton.
There we go.
Seaton will hang on to it, though. There'll be no damage there, I don't think, unless he's done a tyre, but he may have bogged it. So Alan Jones will come up now to take over second. There's Paul Morris.
Oh, here's another one.
There's Thomas Mazira, fastest part of the circuit.
Yocker.
So Thomas Mazira's gone off there.
Ouch.
Heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah,
that was a wild lap, boys.
It was pretty wild. I mean, we had 3 tyre manufacturers involved then, and their performances was quite different through the course of the race. And there's 2 sides to every story. I've obviously got mine.
Shocked me.
Which is my way.
It shocked me.
Of course.
I think he thought that Glenn really needed to go for a pit stop. So.
Together you did 81 championship races and you won 38 of them in that 11 years. Quite amazing. So near enough to 50%. That's worthy of a round of applause, isn't it? Well done, guys.
Where do you get all these stats from?
Noonan. He just has them all tucked in the back of his head.
I didn't know any of this.
But it's a tremendous partnership. It's a credit to both of you. You should be very, very proud.
The reason it finished was I thought I was wooed by a slick talking salesman, which didn't really eventuate as it was sold to me. And I've quite often said to Dick in the meantime, in the past, that I should have stayed, because I'm sure we would have had many years together. So, I mean, I'm very fond of him, as you can tell, and I'm very fond of his family. And we're drinking out of the same glass. I mean, I shared a drink straw with him for 11 years. Now, I wouldn't do that with anybody.
That's right.
Other than him.
What an endorsement. Look, I'd also like to remind everybody about the Shannons Club, folks. So why not join the Shannons Club today? You can create your own virtual garage. You can discuss topics on the forums, enter the latest competitions, find a car club or event. Plus, you can watch catch-up episodes and rare footage of the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. It's all part of the Shannons Club TV experience. It's been fantastic having Shannon's support for this project. Boys, thank you once again for your very special time today, and we've appreciated you sharing stories with us.
Thank you,
Absolute
mate.
pleasure.
Great.
Cheers.
John Bowe. While I think of it also, I would like to make a very special presentation and thank you also and show gratitude to the Bowden family, to David, to Chris and to Dan. They've thrown open the doors at their facility here, an extraordinary private collection, and sincerely, boys, we thank you very, very much. Thanks for your great cooperation and your entire team. So that's it, we're out of time. It's been another exciting episode of the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. Thank you for watching today.
The Nissans certainly made a mark on Australian motor racing.
And our first guest today is the man behind the powerhouse team. Please welcome our special guest, Mr. Fred Gibson.
Well, GDR was an extraordinary car to drive. I mean, it was big power.
And chalk up another 1-2 to Nissan.
I want you to drive the car like you hate it.
He crashed it, destroyed it.
He did.
He obviously hated it.
The first time I drove the GDR, I just immediately thought, this is incredible. We'll win all the races in this car.
In the number 17, Dick Johnson and John Bowe.
John Bowe, Dick Johnson, the winners of the great race, and a Ford Falcon has won that.